Communication is always a good idea, whether the crap has hit the fan or not. Welcome to Survival Existence. Hello and welcome back to Survival Existence. This is Bobby. Today I'm going to discuss communications, and fairly cheap communications for your homestead or even for covert operations in case things really get bad. The radios we're going to discuss today is the Baofeng UV5R. These little radios can be had for about $26 on Amazon. They come with the radio, the charger, and also an earphone microphone. The antenna that come with these radios is poor, and I'm probably being too kind in calling it poor. The best thing you can do if you do consider buying these radios is just add into the cost of buying a reasonably decent dual band antenna that'll fit these radios. The antenna that comes on them is horrible. Also, you need to keep in mind that these radios will transmit on many different frequencies. They'll get on ham frequencies, GMRS frequencies, FRS frequencies, MURS frequencies, police bands, and other emergency service bands. You do have to be careful when you use these radios. You don't want to interfere and run the risk of getting in trouble with Uncle Charlie, as we used to call him back in the Citizens Band days. Also, if you buy these radios, you want to take into consideration you'll also probably want the USB programming cable with the programming CD. They're only about $7 and well worth your trouble. You can manually key in each frequency. One of the drawbacks of these radios is you cannot add another frequency or remove one that you don't want in your radio just simply by itself. You have to go through and reprogram the entire EEPROM in it, and that's where your programming cable and the associated programming CD comes into usage, very much so. You can make your changes with a few keystrokes on the computer and just upload it to each of your radios and change the frequencies as you need to. Otherwise, you'll be setting literally for hours to just a handful of frequencies, entering them in. That's a horrible waste of time, and it's extremely aggravating. But like I say, if you buy these radios, you'll want to buy an additional dual band antenna, and just you can simply throw away the Baofeng antennas that came with it. They are disgustingly horrible. You also want the programming cable with the CD. It's about $7. You may even want a dual band magnetic mount antenna to fit on the vehicle. It can really help you with your range whenever you're driving down the road. Besides that, your signal is outside instead of inside the vehicle, and you get better communication. These radios are nowhere close to the commercial radios or amateur radios or even public service radios, and they're certainly not even in the same universe with a military grade radio. But for $26, you really can't beat them. I also wouldn't, stake my life on them. They work, but that's all they do. They're relatively short range, of course, because they're on the UHF, VHF frequencies. And of course, the VHF frequencies, the 150 megahertz range of frequencies, give or take a little, you do get a great deal more distance with than you do in the 450, 460 megahertz range. But on the plus side, with it being in the 460 megahertz range, if you have a lot of obstructions around you, like buildings, they transmit through buildings far better than VHF does, so for that they're good. But don't expect a commercial quality military quality, or a amateur radio, ham radio quality transceiver, because it's not. I've been a ham radio operator for a long time, and I can tell you right now, these are not even in the neighborhood of the quality of radio. But nonetheless, you're not going to beat them for 26 bucks either. Of course, you get what you pay for, but if you have a homestead and you think that perhaps you may need them just simply communicate from the field back to home, or if you think things will really get bad enough that you may have to patrol your own property, then this can very easily fill the bill. Some of the features this thing has, of course, it's programmable. Not easily, but nonetheless programmable. It makes it much easier with the cable and the program. But also it has a function on it that is an alarm. If you need to wake someone up, say, within a neighborhood, you could certainly easily do that by holding this call button down. And of course the receiving radio is all quiet, but you hold it down and listen to it. That's a rather obnoxious tone, but it'll bring you straight out of bed in the middle of the night if there's some sort of an emergency. Some of the other things this thing will do is it'll also receive your local FM radio stations by simply pushing and letting go. It does have some usages that amateur radios, commercial radios, and certainly military equipment does not have. Of course, this is not going to let you communicate halfway around the world by no stretch of the imagination. Of course, the UHF, VHF frequencies are not designed to that. They're line of sight only. And the GMRS frequencies, it's in the neighborhood of 400 megahertz. GMRS stands for General Mobile Radio Service. FRS stands for Family Radio Service, and MURS, or MERS, is quite often called, is Multi-Use Radio Service. The bad news about GMRS is that it's a licensed radio service as it stands. That, I feel like, will probably change within the next several years. But nonetheless, the bad news is that it is a licensed radio service. You're supposed to be licensed to use it. The even worse news is the license is $80 a year. Under normal conditions, I'd say do not transmit outside of what you're allowed to. If things get real bad, you do what you have to do to survive, obviously. In the MERS or MURS radio section, it's an unlicensed radio service. Of course, you get more distance since it is in the what amateur radio operators call the 2-meter range. It's 150 or so megahertz in that general area. The good news, like I said, it's unlicensed and you can get more distance. Also, you can put an antenna up to 60 feet above ground, or if you're in a high-rise building, it can actually be 20 feet above the surrounding structure. MERS is limited to 2 watts output, which is not a lot of wattage, but with your antenna up 60 feet or 20 feet above surrounding structure, you can get up to 10 or more miles depending on conditions and surrounding terrain from a base station to a handheld. And of course, you will get better reception the higher your antenna is. Higher power is a nice thing, but in order just to increase 1 dB of reception, that transmitting station has to transmit twice as much power as it did before. In other words, at 2 watts, if you just want to increase the received decibels, you'd have to go to 4 watts. In order to increase another dB, you would have to go to 8 watts, and it continues on like that. So the most important thing, as with any radio service actually, is your antenna. Your antenna is key to everything. If you're interested in these radios, I'm going to leave a link down in the show notes section of this video. Don't expect a whole lot out of these, but anything is better than nothing. And if you have nothing and you get one of these, you're head and shoulders above everyone else around you. Obviously, these radios are not the highest quality in the world, but of course they're $26, and I have several handheld radios around the house that I gave $250 long ago that were simply a single band 2-meter handheld radio. But nonetheless, just like everything else, having something is far, far better than nothing when you have nothing at all. Come visit us on our website at survivalexistence.com. Come check us out on our Facebook channel and subscribe to us here on our YouTube channel, Survival Existence. Have a good day.